If they had any belief system about the dead, here's what they believed. There was an actual place that we will visit on this tour, and it is called the Valley of Akharon. And they believe in the Middle East 2,000 years ago that the underworld that Hades ruled and the world of the living, where reality and rational logos thinking takes place, was separated by a river. The Greeks, ladies and gentlemen, actually believed that Jesus died because they didn't know he was God. Don't assume they know the rest of the story. They thought that he went on a trip, and here's the trip they thought he went on. They thought, like all people who die, the first thing that happens to you is that you were put on a boat. Now listen to me carefully. They believed that you were placed on a boat and that the goddess of the dead, Persephone, had a priest, and that would meet you between the valley of the living and the valley of the dead, that they actually thought was a place that entered into a river in the Middle Eastern world. Now watch this very carefully. They used two words to describe this. Necromantia. Dead bodies, and the word prophecy. Now listen carefully. Those two words is where we get our English word necromancy. And the reason they were necromantic, which means that they entertained the dead spirits, as a matter of fact, they had this hope that maybe there was an afterlife. And if they had a hope that maybe Jesus, or that someone was going to live again, here's how they fulfilled that hope. They literally, ladies and gentlemen, would go and pay off the priest of the priestess who lived in a cave, and they would give him money. His name was, on the river was Kron, but they'd give him money, and that he would take them by boat to the damned, to the place of the underworld. They believed, if you ever watched a Greek movie, you'll notice they'll put coins on the eye or in the mouth. The reason that they were putting coins in the eye or in the mouth was because you had to pay off the demonic goddess. And that if you did not have a coin in your mouth when you arrived to the underworld by boat, by Akon, then what happened was he left your body on the shores. So the concept in Western civilization of disembodied spirits, of spirits that roam where there is no, at least some kind of synthetic essence, comes from the fact that the goddess of the dead was not paid off, and that Hades rejected their body. Death, hell, and the grave. Now listen carefully. The Greeks believed this so much that there was a place there that they had called Dead Magic Place. And they would pay the priest of the cult, the Greeks would, and give him money. And weeks before they came, they would dress up in the clothes of their dead relatives, and hoping that somehow they would find the body of their dead relative. And they would literally go into the underworld, ladies and gentlemen, and they would look for their dead grandmothers and their dead fathers of Troy. And they would search and hope and find the dead bodies in the tunnels of the Greek culture. They'd take a left and hope to find hope and find no hope. They'd go right and hope to find their loved one, and their loved one wouldn't be here. Over hundreds of years, thousands of Greeks began to do this. And they got through the last part of the tunnel only to find a solid brick wall. That is where you get the English word dead end. And this had an effect on the way that the Greeks saw death. And they said these words at the end of the tunnel. It became so famous that it's written and inscribed on stones after stones in the Latin civilization, in the Greek and the Hebrew civilization. Here's what it said in Latin. No fui, nosum no curio. And as they sit there dressed in the clothes of their dead loved one, they realized that life after death was a dead end, and that there was no such thing as the afterlife. Those words mean this: I was not, I was. I am not. I don't care. That's it. And they literally began to avoid the subject of what it meant to die and be placed in a tomb, because they believed that those of us who were living have more power to find happiness in the afterlife than those that were dead, because once you died, you couldn't find your way out.